So, we ready?
We are ready.
All right.
I was born ready. Action.
Maybe we'll start with that now. All right, everybody. This is episode 78 of Now Showing with Mike and Wayne. Wayne and I are here to talk about two actors / directors that we both are big fans of. Wayne, I'm going to let you get started. They are also the star and director of one of the movie we're going to review today, one of the movies. So go ahead and get us started off here with your first movie.
All righty. What's up, everybody? Thank you once again for clicking on us and downloading and sharing and all of the good stuff you've done to support us over these last 77, now 78 episodes. I am talking about Ben Affleck, the American actor and filmmaker, born Benjamin Giza Affleck Bolt on August 15th, 1972, born in Berkeley, California. Now, if you're like me and you heard that, you're like, whoa. We're talking about South Boston over there where you go park the car and all that awful accents. You know what I'm talking about there? You know, what can I use you for? Oh, yeah. No, born in California, raised in Cambridge, Massachusetts. La-di-da. What can I say about Ben Affleck? I love him. Obviously, when you think Ben Affleck, you also think Matt Damon, two of the biggest stars in Hollywood. Obviously, coming up in the early 90s, Ben Affleck had a lot of roles in some iconic movies. You know, we've talked about Dazed and Confused ad nauseum because it's one of my favorite films of all time. He was also in Good Will Hunting, co-wrote it with Matt Damon. They did win the Academy Award for Best Screenplay, I believe. Best Story,
correct.
Something along those lines.
Best Original Screenplay.
Fear not, I'm not going to talk about those any more than just these mentioned because we like to keep it fresh here. Now talking with Mike and Wade, changing the name of the show. All right, the first movie I want to talk about is one that is not really thought of very highly of, but it's one of my favorite ones. It is 2004's Jersey Girl. Now, this is during the Bennifer year, the first stint of the Bennifer saga, where he and Jennifer Lopez were a thing, if you will.
Yes.
Jennifer Lopez is briefly in this movie and is the mother of his daughter who passes away at birth or shortly after birth. During birth, right?
Yeah, the mother passes away relatively quickly in the life of the child. Yes.
Yes. So we do get a brief glimpse of Bennifer coming off of there.
Directed by his frequent collaborator Kevin Smith. This was kind of like a love letter to his own daughter, which is why he made it at that time in his career.
Yes, very familial ties and whatnot. Obviously, Ben Affleck and Kevin Smith have a long history of films. Obviously, Chasing Amy, Mallrats, Dogma, obviously. Yep. So there's a lot of stuff here, but yeah, not really well received by critics, and I guess fans are kind of on the fence about it as well. And I will venture to say most of people are kind of on it.
You know what though, I'm with you. The first time I saw it, I really, really liked this movie a lot. Yep. And you're right, it is very poorly received.
Yes, but obviously starring Ben Affleck, Liv Tyler. Love Liv Tyler. More can you say about it? Gorgeous. Great in pretty much everything she's been in. Obviously, Lord of the Rings. Another movie that we're going to talk about that they started in a little bit.
Wow, so this is a Tyler Ben Affleck love fest for you, basically, this morning.
I was on the fence about talking about Armageddon, but you know what? Coming off of what we talked about last week with, disaster, earth-destroying things, I felt it needed a mention, but we'll get to that in a little bit.
Yes.
The biggest thing that I want to highlight, George Carlin is in this movie in a very un-Carlin-esque role. He is the loving grandfather who basically takes care of the baby. Gertie Trinke, obviously Ollie Trinke, Ben Affleck, is a widower in the music realm, if you will. He was a producer of some kind. It's been a while. I didn't get a chance to see it, so I am a little fuzzy on all of the details, guys. I apologize, but you say Jersey Girl, you're going to get an immediate reaction out of most people. And
Yes, agreed.
Michael and I are in the minority who appreciate this movie. So basically, he gives up his career in the music realm to take care of his daughter. Moves back home with dad, who is taking care of the child for a while. When George Carlin, in a very Carlin-esque way, we do see a little bit saying, "Hey, I'm not taking care of her anymore. You know, you're her father." So basically, it's a dramedy, if you will, where there's a lot of laughs. There's a lot of tender moments. There's some moments where Ben Affleck needs to realize that he has to sacrifice his happiness and his wants for the, betterment or the, success and happiness of his child, and to have a meaningful relationship with her.
Well, I think too, and this kind of goes to Kevin Smith and himself, is that not that you can't do what you love, but you may have to limit it a little bit to be there, to be a parent. Like you could still work in the business that you like. Like take him for example. Like when his daughter was born, he definitely took more time, I think, in between movies, but he still got to write and produce and direct movies when he felt the time was right. So I think he was trying to get the point across in this movie that like sacrifices have to be made, but you could still also be who you are. And the one thing I like to look at this movie too is the way I describe it to people is like it's a rom-com, but not between a man and a woman. It's the same type of rom-com formula, but between a man and his daughter, becoming close to his daughter. Yeah. So I don't want it to sound like it's like romantic, like love, because it's not. But that's the kind of like the setup that it is that it's very similar to that of a typical rom-com. But it's about a man and his daughter, and about him kind of realizing, like you said, that he needs to be the one that's there for her all the time, that he can't be leaving her with grandfather and grandpa and all that, or grandmother and all that kind of stuff. So I always thought it was a very sweet movie. I like Kevin Smith when he's not being Kevin Smith and when he's Kevin Smith. I think this is a perfect example of Kevin Smith just being a little more grown up, a little more emotional, and I like that aspect of him. And I think people maybe just at the time weren't ready for him to do what he did with this film, and that this film was outside of his normal, no Jay and Silent Bob. And I think that it worked for me. It just didn't work for a lot of people, as they were expecting something more juvenile, and we didn't get that this time around.
Yep, and I mean, you don't have to like everything, but to really just understand what they're trying to do and to recognize that it's not as bad as everybody makes it out to be. That's the point that we just want to leave you with. So that was my first Ben Affleck movie, sir. What do you got for me? And
all right, well, I'm going to go with this actor/director named George Timothy Clooney. Didn't realize his middle name was Timothy. It's weird. I don't know why.
A little better known than Giza, if you will.
Yes. So George Clooney, obviously a longtime actor, started out in like cheesy horror films. Many people may not know that.
Booker on Roseanne.
Yes, and then he worked his way onto being one of the hit TV stars of the 90s with ER, and he then basically set on a path to become one of the, or if not the biggest movie star in the world. And he succeeded. And then he basically, at some point kind of decided to take a step back and do directing as well. So he wasn't as in many movies as he was early in his career. I'll start in order with with when they came out, just for no other reason than just to do so. The first one I want to talk about, I mean, it's not, to say it's not a big movie. I mean, it's just, I don't think a lot of people talk about it as much anymore. It's Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Directed by the Coen brothers. One of my personal favorite films of theirs. So yeah, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Directed by the Coen brothers, Joel and Ethan Coen. They wrote it based on the Odyssey by Homer. Starring George Clooney, John Turturro, Tim Blake Nelson, Charles Durning, Michael Bedeluca, John Goodman, Holly Hunter. Goodman often works with the Coen brothers, as is John Turturro. Clooney has now been a frequent collaborator with him as well. This is his first movie. but he went on to do Hail Caesar, Intolerable Cruelty. What was great about this movie, why I want to talk about it, is up until this point, George Clooney was either an action star or a TV star. And then he did Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? And it really showed his comedy chops. And not just like Out of Sight, where he was like the slick, sarcastic, attractive, funny guy. This was like real comedy. This is almost like, like Buster Keaton type stuff that he enjoyed growing up, where he got to show and kind of flex those comedy muscles. Just the opening scenes, the prison break where the three of them, Turturro, Tim Blake Nelson, and Clooney break out of jail. And then it basically follows along like the Odyssey, where John Goodman is the Cyclops, and they have the sirens when they get baptized. There's just so many great things in this movie. The music is fantastic. The music, I believe, it was at least nominated for Oscars. I can't remember if it won, but
I do believe it did win, because I remember them performing it live at some award show. So it did. I'm pretty sure award winning.
This movie it's hilarious. It's timely. It deals with a lot of different issues that are even still going on today, as the Coen brothers often do in their movies. They handle a lot of like heavy issues. It's a great film. It has a great cast. It's hilarious. The songs are catchy. I still just remember George Clooney's facial expressions like throughout the entire movie. He's perfect in this film. It's one of those, I think it was just a surprise for a lot of people that hadn't seen him do this type of comedy before. And it's funny now, because now if you go watch Hail Caesar, you're like, oh yeah, it's typical George Clooney comedy, because that's the type, they kept that same style for that movie. And he did it in Intolerable Cruelty too, which I thought was a little fun rom-com where they didn't have to go the kind of goofy route that he went, but he wanted to do that.
Nobody plays a grifter or a thief quite like Clooney.
No, exactly. I mean, he plays it extremely well. And I mean, he plays off of Holly Hunter really well in this movie. Him, Turturro, and Tim Blake Nelson. I mean, when Tim Blake Nelson and George Clooney have the thought that Turturro's character may or may not have turned into a toad. It's just, I mean, you get that Clooney's character most likely doesn't believe it, but the way Tim Blake Nelson is playing it, when John Goodman crunches it up in a ball and kills it,
throws it against the tree.
Yes. And then when they're at the movie theater and they think they see him, like they're having like an image, but it's actually him in the movie theater.
Do not seek the treasure.
Do not seek the treasure.
I mean, so much, like, it's such a genius idea, because, you think of the Odyssey, if you will, it's Greek tradition, if you will, and all of this.
Very
we're going to take it to the backwaters of, Arkansas, Louisiana down there. And just like, he's bona fide. And, just a great spot on the LM. He got hit by a train. And stay out of the Woolworth. Just those quick, quippy little one-liners I could pull off the top of my head, 21 years later, or 20 years later. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. Over 20 years later. Now I think it was 2001. It was 2000. So 22 years later now.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah. It's one of those, it's always stuck with me. It's always been one of my, it's hard to say one of my favorite Coen brothers movies, because I'm one of those Coen brothers fans who love every one of their films.
Yeah, it's like saying, which is your favorite breath of oxygen you've taken today?
Exactly. It's difficult for me to choose usually. Especially for favorite, because there's a lot that I really, really like a lot. Yeah, so I mean, you can find this one pops up on Netflix every once in a while. So if you missed it, I definitely recommend checking it out. It's just one of those films that really just kind of, I don't know. It gives you a lot of joy, and it's a lot of fun to watch. And maybe at the offset, if you just see a picture of it, you may not think so, but it really is a wonderful film.
Yes.
So check it out. If you get a chance. And Wayne, your next film?
All right. I could stay awake just to hear you breathing. Yes, we're talking about Armageddon. I hinted at it already. 1998 disaster. This really was the summer of disasters, wasn't it? Because Deep Impact was coming out right around this time, or maybe it was already out.
It was. So, I think Armageddon came out first, but Deep Impact was technically in production first. So there was a lot of speculation on what was actually supposed to be first.
Especially when something was in production first and a Michael Bay directed movie beats it out.
Yeah.
Because true. When we're talking Michael Bay, we're talking about explode. Yes, we're talking about explosions and other just madness. So let's break it down a little bit here. Obviously, with directors Michael Bay, written by John Hensley, J.J. Abrams with the screenplay, and Tony Gilroy. So we are talking about Bruce Willis, Billy Bob Thornton, Ben Affleck, Liv Tyler again, Will Patton, Steve Buscemi, William Fichtner, Owen Wilson, Michael Clark Duncan, Peter Stormare, who is grossly underappreciated for his role as the Russian cosmonaut Lev Andropov, Keith David, Jessica Steen, Jason Isaacs, just star-studded cast, if you will. So NASA or somebody looks up into the sky with a big old telescope. It's like, oh shit, that looks like a comet or a meteor. It looks like it's coming this way. Turns out we are fucked. The Earth's impending doom is coming. Didn't Eddie Griffin have a small role in the beginning of this?
Eddie Griffin is
the film?
I believe it's the actor that plays what's E Honda from Street Fighter, and Eddie Griffin as the actor from Street Fighter. In the beginning, they're arguing, and then the part of the meteor hits his hot dog stand, and it leaves a big crater, and Eddie Griffin's dog is hanging over the edge. Also, Mr. Cooper, I forget the actor's name, but the actor from Hanging with Mr. Cooper is a cab driver. So you get a couple little kind of cameos in the beginning that are, if you watch TV in the 90s, you know who those two are.
Yes.
Basically, yes.
All right. So basically, they realize that this big frickin' rock is coming to destroy the world. So they're trying to figure out, well, what should we do? Should we fire a nuke at it? And they come into the concept of, well, if we do that, it's just going to bounce off of it and not really do anything. What if we landed on it and drilled holes in it? Well, we don't know how to do that. Well, what are we going to do? In comes Harry S. Stamper, Bruce Willis, and his mining operation. They're a deep sea driller.
They're oil diggers. They're diggers.
Oil diggers, basically. And basically, to get these guys on board, they have a list of crazy demands. You know, hey, an everyman list, if you will. Well, the list culminates with, and none of them ever want to pay taxes ever again. And I just remember Michael Clark Duncan being chased by helicopters on this big Harley Davidson.
Yep. Oh yeah.
It is typical big softy role. Steve Buscemi borrows $200,000 from a loan shark.
Yep.
And I remember the scene's like, you look kind of sickly. You're not going to die on me, are you?
Yeah, and then he makes a comment about how basically everyone's gonna I think he says, like, not any more than you are, pal.
Yeah.
Because
they know what's going to happen because they've been informed, and there's this talk about NASA. It's like, well, they're not ready for this. It's like, I just want them to survive the trip, basically. And this ragtag bunch
is fantastic as the head of NASA.
Yes, he was not able to ever be on a mission because he had polio, right? I believe.
I believe something along those lines.
Condition where he couldn't be an astronaut. And there's a lot of focus on the mission patch that is on the spacesuits, which we'll get to at the end of this. So basically, split up into two teams, and nothing goes right. One of the shuttles is destroyed and crashes and kills everyone but Ben Affleck, Michael Clark Duncan, and
the Russian, Peter Stormare.
Yeah.
And that was, because that was the one that Owen Wilson was on. He dies. He's in the movie for like 30 or 40 minutes, and then when they finally get to outer space, he dies immediately, as well as one of the other random characters that we didn't even... Isn't one of their oil diggers, but we really don't get to know him very well, and then he dies. So it's like...
So basically, there's another little tidbit we need to talk about. Liv Tyler Grace Stamper, who is Harry Stamper, Bruce Willis's daughter, who is in love with AJ Frost, Ben Affleck, who is like a son to Bruce Willis.
Shot oil digger.
Yes. Yep. So there's that little tension because Bruce Willis finds out and freaks out and
tries to kill
a shotgun and chases Ben Affleck all over the oil.
Yes, and then there's a good scene too where when he goes to get him for this mission because he had fired him already. And he's like, Harry, I
I
thought
just
you
want
never.
to hear 5 things that turned out to be like 17.
Yeah, it turned out to be like, well, like 7, 8, 10 things. But then he also says too, when he goes, I thought you wouldn't want to work with me. He goes, AJ, there isn't a job on this planet I would want to work with you on. And then he's like, wait a minute. What's the job then, Harry? What's the job? And that's how they get him to go with. And then I think they then dead cut to a scene of them in the room being explained that the end of the world is happening. And they all just look defeated. That I love that scene too, because they're like, who's with me? He's like, you know me. Beat me up, Scotty. That's Buscemi. And then the rest of them, I don't know. What do you think? Yeah, yes, I guess. I guess. Sure, whatever.
Will Patton is chick.
He's great too. He's like, really good.
There's no job that I wouldn't follow you on, boss. And obviously, there's that. Every character has their little subtle nuances. Like he has a child that he doesn't get to see. Finds out. And
you jumped right to space, Wayne. You missed one of everyone's most cringiest scenes, which is the animal cracker scene, where Tyler's dad is singing and crooning over his daughter having an animal cracker on her belly heading down south. So a very strange scene when you really look at it from the outside.
As a young man, I thought that was, hey, I wonder if that would work, blah, blah, blah. As a adult now, I'm kind of like, well,
it's like as they shot it,
think of the crumbs.
Yeah. Well, it's like as they shot it, I'm sure it was probably weird and funny for them to shoot it. But then afterwards, probably when they see it in the theaters and it's got Steven Tyler's voice underneath the scene, it's got to be like, whoa, wait, maybe they shouldn't have done that.
This is one thing you're okay to miss, Dad. You don't really want to be witness to that.
So then we jump into where they're in outer space, and like you said, there was the
So Bruce Willis's team, basically, they are the only ones left apparently, and everything goes wrong for them. They burn out the engine of the drill, so they can't complete their mission. But they don't know that Ben Affleck's team has survived and has taken the big, huge rock driller machine thing and are flying it basically with the boosters to the location. And just when this is why it plays on your emotions, and it does it for me too. Like it gets me every time. Still, 24 years later, 23, whatever it is, I can't do math.
You're right,
if you will. Just when things look darkest, the other rock crawler shows up.
Yes.
And of course, Bruce Willis delivers that. I only got 5 things to say to you. Damn proud to see you, boy.
Yeah.
Or son, that's 6 things. So the other rock crawler shows up. They're able to drill the hole. They're making, now it's a scramble to get the bomb in and detonate it. Unfortunately, because the asteroid is breaking apart, the remote detonator is broken. So they have the iconic scene where they need to draw straws. And wouldn't you know it, Ben Affleck draws the short straw to stay behind, sacrifice himself, and save the world. And I shit you not, I'm getting a little emotional just talking about it because Bruce Willis decides that, not on my watch. Get off my plane, if you will. He pulls Ben Affleck's oxygen tanks, takes the detonator and says, you take care of my daughter. You take care of Grace.
And then rips the patch off.
Yep. And then, of course, he has the emotional goodbye with Grace. And, oh, God. Take over, Money. I'm in the bag.
So you mentioned the patch earlier. He rips the patch off, and he hands that to him. He says, give that to Billy Bob's character. It's for him. We also forgot to mention, too, that at some point, one of my favorite parts of the movie is when Buscemi goes crazy, and then the guy goes, he's got space dementia. What the fuck is space dementia?
This is like a 3-hour movie, and it is chock full of good parts. And there's
so many good one-liners. The scene where they have to try to disable the rocket too, because the people on the ground just want to blow it up because they're running out of time, and he's going to fight William Fichtner over whether they're to put the code in. And they put it in the last second. There's a lot of last second things in this movie where everything goes down to the wire basically. Yeah. My wife loves this movie. It's one of the disaster movies. She's a huge fan of those. So we watch this one quite often. I've seen it a lot. I know a lot of people don't like it. I mean, if I'm going to sit here and say, is it a good movie? Probably not. Is it an entertaining movie? Yes, it is. It's extremely entertaining. Like you said, it's on an emotional level. It gets you just because of the way, even if it's just the way they drop the music, the way they have everything put together. Michael Bay knows how to elicit an emotion. That's one thing he can do. Directing and having people speak dialogue is another thing, but it is a really good and fun movie. I do want to point out too, I haven't listened to it yet, but there's an Armageddon commentary out there with Ben Affleck, and he talks about how he went to Michael Bay and was like, hey, wouldn't it be like make more sense if the astronauts learned the drilling instead of us learning to be astronauts? And according to Ben Affleck, Michael Bay basically just said, shut the fuck up, Ben, go and act. That's what he did. So that was essentially how it happened. And Ben Affleck is known to question. I think him being a director was on the surface because Kevin Smith had a story about him too, where before Kevin Smith worked with Seth Rogen, someone who loves to add in lines, Kevin Smith was very much by the script. I wrote the script, you say the words I wrote, and that's how you say them. At one point, one of my favorite jokes is when Ben Affleck went to Kevin Smith about a line in Mallrats, and Kevin Smith is like, no, go write your own movie, dude. Read the line as I told you. And he goes, he went and wrote his own movie. He won a fucking Oscar. It's a great little tidbit. I may have told that story before, but I don't remember if I have or not on this podcast. But those are two notes that I like about Ben Affleck. I guess just always being kind of interested in his characters and the plot of the movie and where things are going, which then, again, looking at it, okay, well, he was obviously on this path, then obviously writing the screenplay, but it took him a while to become a director. So, he was obviously always kind of headed in that direction. It took him a while to get there. But so it's weird that Armageddon is just another one of those things where he was always, even on Armageddon, he was questioning it. He was, can we do this? Can we do that? So he may not have always been the best actor, but it was at least nice to know that he was always interested in how the movie was being made and how everything was going.
Yeah.
Even just for a movie like this.
So yeah, we have taken far too long talking about Armageddon. So let's get back on track and talk some more Clooney, huh?
All right. We're gonna jump back to George Clooney. We're gonna go to one of his movies that he's directed. My favorite that he has directed, with a more recent one probably coming in at number 2, which we'll talk about maybe a little later. In 2005, he directed Good Night and Good Luck, starring David Strathairn, Patricia Clarkson, George Clooney, Jeff Daniels, Robert Downey Jr., Frank Langella, Tate Donovan, and Ray Wise. It's about Edward R. Murrow, the news reporter, and about McCarthyism and communism and all that stuff that was happening live in television back in the 50s, and how they kind of took a stand against McCarthyism and all that. And to me, it's up there with Spotlight as one of my favorite journalistic films. It really is. I wanted to watch it this week because I haven't seen it in a while, but it's such a great movie. David Strathairn is amazing in this. Gives a fantastic performance as Edward R. Murrow. One of his best performances of his career. Clooney gives a really great performance as his producer. And the directing in this is off the charts. The scripting, the cinematography, it's all black and white. It looks good. It sounds good. The acting is fantastic, and it's really just a very compelling film. I mean, it's one of those ones I don't think people talk about enough. It was nominated for several Oscars back in the day, so it definitely, at the time that it came out, it was well received and respected and whatnot. It was actually filmed in color, and they took all the color out of it in editing. So I just came across that right now. So that's interesting to note because you could do it either way. Yeah, so I mean, I wish I would have watched it so I could talk a little more about it, but it really just is one of those movies that you have to see. And like I said, I feel like a lot of people probably missed it just because, it's not entertainment necessarily. It's just a well-made film, and it's educational at times too. Especially if you didn't grow up at that time. The performances are great. Robert Downey Jr. is also in it. This was right back when his comeback started.
Mm-hmm.
So he did this and Kiss Kiss Bang Bang in the same year, and then 3 years later he was Iron Man. So it's kind of cool to see if you want to go see where people started letting him in the door again. this and Kiss Kiss Bang Bang were it. And he gave a really nice performance too. And it's just one of those movies that's always stuck with me, Wayne. Like, even though I've only seen it like twice, I think, but it just like has always stuck in my brain as like one of those just great films. So I always really like this film. I wish people would talk about it more. And I'm gonna, at some point in this year, I'm going to watch it again because I've been wanting to watch it for a while and I haven't been able to yet. So, but yeah, I don't know if you've seen this one, Wayne, but it's if you got anything you want to say about it.
I saw it probably shortly after it came out, maybe as soon as it came on home video, but I don't recall it very much.
Oh, okay.
Right. I do need to revisit it, obviously, so I am going to get that on the list, on the docket, if you will.
Let's go to your final Ben Affleck film.
So. All right. We got to talk about 2012's Argo. Directed by Ben Affleck. It is the basically the story of six Americans taken hostage in Iran. Acting under the cover of a Hollywood producer scouting for a location for a science fiction film, a CIA agent launches a dangerous operation to rescue the 6 Americans in Tehran during the U.S. hostage crisis in Iran, 1979. Gosh, this is a very critically acclaimed film. It won
Best Picture,
3 Oscars. It won Best Picture, Best Writing, and Best Editing. Best Editing, William Goldenberg. Best Writing, Chris Terrio.
Yeah.
And obviously, Best Picture.
Yep. Also, you know who produced that?
George Clooney.
George Clooney. A lot of controversy as Ben Affleck was not nominated for Best Director at the Oscars. Did get a Golden Globe nomination.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he actually won at the Golden Globes. So everyone was very confused at why he wasn't nominated for an Oscar that year.
The politics of things just is odd, and
it can be for sure.
So yeah, you've got Ben Affleck as Tony Mendez, Bryan Cranston. He's kind of, I don't want to say he's easy to forget or overlook in this film. It's just when you think Argo. Actually, I take that back. No, he's not. I forget. I'm looking at him like, oh yeah, because we're talking so much Clooney and Affleck right now. It's like Bryan Cranston, one of my favorites. John Goodman.
Yep.
Alan Arkin, Victor Garber, Tate Donovan,
Rory Cochrane.
Yep.
From Dazed and Confused.
Titus Welliver.
Yep.
Obviously from Sons of Anarchy infamy, season 2 and 3.
Yeah, he was also in Gone Baby Gone, directed by Affleck. And I think The Town, too. I think he's in his first 3 movies he directed.
Yes, but you want to talk about just an intense theater experience. Toward the end of this movie, it's like, when they're moving the hostages out, they're on the plane. It's just like my heart was beating this whole time, like, whew. And then when the plane actually takes off, and you're just like, oh. But just very, very interesting piece. Very well deserved, very well directed. What are your thoughts, sir?
Yeah, I know. I'm a big fan of this one. Affleck as a director, I think, has really grown, and I think almost with every movie he gets a little better. This one, it's the second one that he directed where he's in front of the camera as well. So I imagine that's probably very difficult. But I thought he did a fantastic job in both directing and starring in the film. He surrounded himself with a great supporting cast. To get Goodman and Cranston and Arkin to be like your core, and then you go over to where the terrorists are and where the kidnap victims are from Canada, and then you got Rory Cochrane and Tate Donovan, Victor Garber. So I mean, he was smart enough to surround himself with a lot of great character actors, and everybody in this movie is pulling their weight, and it was really one of those films that you don't necessarily expect to be that entertaining because it's not an action movie or anything, but like you said, that last like 20 minutes, 30 minutes of the movie where they're not only trying to leave the airport, but where they're trying to get to the airport too, where they have to run in through the village and stuff. It was just a really like intense film and lots of tension in this film. Really well done, well made. it was interesting. I was listening recently to an interview on Mark Maron with Rory Cochrane, and he talked about this movie a little bit. And I guess Affleck. So when he cast the kidnapped victims, he had them all. He put them all up in a hotel on the same floor, and so they all like got to know each other before going off to film. So creating that chemistry, to see what was there. And Rory said all they did was really just kind of like eat together, order out food, talk, tell stories and stuff about their acting and all that stuff, and they bonded. So I think when you can do something like that for a movie, it really helps, especially when you kind of think of it like they're main characters, but they're also kind of secondary to all the other main, to like Affleck and everybody else. So to take that kind of time to have the somewhat minor characters, still have that chemistry that you're looking for in a movie like this, I thought was really interesting. And just that was Affleck's idea, I think, too, it was his idea to put them up in that hotel and have them kind of bond. And it worked out. I think those characters are really work really well together. Tate Donovan is great as the leader, kind of. Victor Garber is the man who's hiding them. It's a really, really well made movie. Like I said, for something that's kind of like historical drama, it's a fun, well made historical drama movie too. I don't mean fun in like laughing, a good time fun, but just it's enjoyable.
It's very entertaining, very riveting.
Yes, exactly. Your edge of your seat type of thing.
Yep. So that is going to wrap up my 3 Ben Affleck movies. Obviously, we didn't talk anything superhero related, whether it be Daredevil or
Batman.
I wanted to stay away from all that stuff just because we have talked about it before.
Yep. 2 Batmans. George Clooney probably being one of the worst.
But at least
he'll tell you that. Yes, the bat nipples ruined it for everybody. All right. So my final movie.
Wait, I have to ask. Wait, is that Batman the one with Mr. Freeze? Is that Batman and Robin?
Oh yeah. Yes.
Cool out.
Chill. Michael Clayton came out in 2007, directed by Tony Gilroy, starring George Clooney, Tom Williamson, Tilda Swinton in her Oscar-winning role, and Sidney Pollack as well, who was also a producer on the film. Michael Clayton is a slow burn political thriller about like a fixer for a law firm who kind of gets in deep and has to like uncover this big web of deceit and betrayal. And there's so many scenes where you think like he's not going to make it, but you're kind of like, well, the movie is called Michael Clayton, so I'm thinking he'll make it till the end. And there's this great, powerful scene with him and Tilda at the end of the movie where, I mean, she earns her Oscar throughout the entire film, but like the last scene is very tense, very emotional. Really, really great work from both of them in that scene. Her especially, and I was listening to somebody recently. It may have been Clooney, and he was because he did Mark Maron recently, and he was talking about how like when Tilda's acting, like you're just kind of lucky to be in the room. Like everybody feeds off of her, and that's how good she is. So to see, it's always funny to me, like when a non-title character wins an Oscar for a movie, just because you're like, well, isn't Michael Clayton the big star? But Tilda really, she brought it home, man. She really killed that role. It's a great movie. I don't know that it's forgotten necessarily, but it didn't blow up the box office or anything. But it is, for a slow burn political thriller, it is entertaining. It has it does have explosions and whatnot and stuff from time to time. Not a plenty. It's not Armageddon, but it is a very entertaining film and a really good political thriller. It's another one. I wanted to watch all 3 of the ones I talked about this week, and I just didn't have the time. I really want to get to watch this one again. It is fantastic. It was, side note, when I signed up for Vudu, they gave me free movies. Michael Clayton was one of the free movies, so I thought that was really cool. I was like, wow, it was free. Badass movie. Yeah, so I'll bring up some other recommendations, though. I mean, Michael Clayton, if you could seek it out, definitely check that one out if you haven't seen it. It is fantastic. Let me see. Nope. Let me get to the right list here. So Clooney, I wrote down Syriana, Leatherheads, Hail Caesar, The Monuments Men, which we talked about, The Ides of March. Monuments Men and Ides of March are 2 movies that he directed and started. The Descendants, Up in the Air, The Good German, Intolerable Cruelty, Three Kings, and From Dusk Till Dawn. Affleck recommendations, The Town, which is an amazing movie. Jeremy Renner was fantastic. He was nominated for that. Great crime thriller in Boston. Gone Baby Gone, which I talked about. That's one of my favorites, and he's not even in it. That was his directorial debut. Live by Night, which got really kind of ravaged by the critics. It's on Netflix right now. It's a mob movie, so if anyone's interested, I really liked it. I thought he was good in it. I thought he did good directing. It's him and Chris Messina. It's a really just kind of cool, almost noir style mob film. And there's some really great scenes in it too. There's a scene where he's talking to a guy, Wayne, and he's like, the guy is like, well, I can't help you at all. You know, this is really above my pay grade. And then Ben Affleck's like, what the fuck am I talking to you for? And he shoots him right in the face. And I'm like, it was just incredible. Dazed and Confused, which we talk about, Mallrats, Chasing Amy, and one of my personal favorites, Dogma. Easily just a great fucking movie. Also Good Will Hunting, which, I mean, you mentioned at the beginning. I didn't have it on my list because we've seriously poured all the love onto Good Will Hunting. It is a near perfect movie. So yeah, I mean, that's, it's hard for us to talk about that all the time, but it is a fantastic film. All right. So we'll be going to our next segment, and that is our reviews
of the week.
Ooh, it's very much subtle this time around. All right, so the main reason that we talked about Ben Affleck and George Clooney this week was because George Clooney and Ben Affleck teamed up on a movie together that just came out. It is called The Tender Bar. It is in theaters and on Amazon Prime. Directed by George Clooney, written by William Monahan, which I did not know. He wrote The Departed, for anyone interested. So going in, I wasn't aware that it was from him. It stars Ben Affleck, Ty Sheridan, Lily Rabe, Christopher Lloyd, and Daniel Ranieri. It is an ensemble piece. So, like, Affleck is your first build because he's your biggest star. But I'd say everyone, for the most part, has pretty equal screen time. It is a coming-of-age story about a young kid whose father is a piece of shit. I love throughout the movie that they only refer to him as the voice.
Yep.
Which is because his dad is a radio personality, and he is the son tries to find him on the radio because he's always getting fired because he's a piece of shit, and he's always getting rehired, and so he's always on different radio shows. Ben Affleck plays his Uncle Charlie. It didn't dawn on me till afterwards that same character name as he had in Good Will Hunting when they called him Chucky, but obviously his name is probably Charles. In this one, they call him Uncle Chucky at one point. Or they call him Chucky at one point, which I was like, oh, wait a minute. It dawned on me like afterwards. I was like, oh shit. Yes. So yeah, it's a heartwarming story about a young kid who doesn't really have a father figure, and him and his mom move back at home with the dad, which is Christopher Lloyd, and the uncle played by Ben Affleck, and the mother doesn't have a major part in the grandmother doesn't have a major part in the story. I'd say the kid was like 7, 8 years old when they moved back home. Roughly.
About that. Yeah.
Maybe
I think it's 9, I believe was what
it was 9. Yeah, it was about 9 because about 10 years later that is when he goes off to college. That's when Ty Sheridan plays him.
That is the only negative I will say is they did a not great job casting the age differences because he's a very dark complexion and hair and eyes, and then you've got Ty Sheridan who is blonde with green eyes. It's like, what the heck happened to this little boy?
Yeah,
I would say they did that because Ben Affleck was more of a father figure to him, so they made the boy look more like Ben Affleck to kind of show that connection, I think. But
like that's how he modeled his appearance after him, essentially, which he does. And you're right. I also too. I guess my parents were telling me this story. The George Clooney saw the kid Daniel Ranieri. This is his first movie, I believe, on like Kimmel, I think, and he was doing like a bit or something, or they were talking to him or something. and I guess that he was really good, and that's where they cast him from, in spite of the fact that you're right, him and Ty Sheridan really don't look anything alike. Now the kid is white, he's Italian, but he has much more darker complexion than Ty Sheridan. Because I'll admit, the first time I saw a picture of the kid, I thought he was like maybe like Latino or something, but he is not. It's just, again, some Italians have darker skin, and he just has that.
Yep. That's the only negative. Like I said, I was like, wait a minute, what happened? So threw me for a brief moment, but thankfully,
I do think Ty Sheridan is really good in this movie, and I think that maybe helped me. It didn't bother me that much. So
the other glaring thing that I want to start asking people is, have you ever fucked in the back of a Volvo?
There are some great lines in this film as well. This movie is a touching coming of age story, and the kid is looking, like I said before, is looking for a father figure, and they never want to mention it, but that's what Uncle Charlie, Ben Affleck's character, is, and I think everybody in the family knows it. It's just whether they want to acknowledge it or not, because they don't want to make it seem like he doesn't have a dad, because he does. His dad's just a giant piece of shit.
Yes.
And there's a lot, you could tell there's a lot that he has to wrestle with as a character, to kind of, they're lucky he grew up to be a functioning adult like he did. Now, this is based on a true story. It's based on a memoir called The Tender Bar, which memoir comes up. I love that in the movie too, where they're like, apparently everything's trending towards memoirs now. They mentioned it like 4 or 5 times. we got to do a memoir. Basically letting you know this movie is based on a memoir,
and it's fine. I enjoyed the little callbacks to
it was played for a joke. Like, I think after the first time they said it, like when Affleck and anybody else said it, it was kind of jokey on us.
Right. Here, I took down some notes because I enjoyed this movie so much. Reasons why I truly connected with this movie. I loved the Wonder Years-esque VO in the beginning and the end.
Yep, Ron Livingston.
Yep. Obviously, this movie ends a lot like Good Will Hunting, with the driving off, and you don't get the iconic "I gotta go see about a girl," but
a lot of similarities.
Yes. Christopher Lloyd is, has a minor small role in this, but he's got the scene where he goes to Father Sunday, where they're cooking where the kids are cooking breakfast for the fathers, and he's described as a selfish old, curmudgeon or this, that, and the other thing. But
I love the slick back hair too.
Yeah, he puts on a 3-piece suit and rocks it out, and Grandma's like, "I remember you," and just he's there. Even though he's grouchy and he's pissed that his kids have to keep coming back to his house, he truly loves and provides for his family.
Yes.
Much like the conversation they have at the beginning of the movie between the comparisons between JR's father and his grandfather.
Yes.
Your grandfather just doesn't want to have to take care, or he's angry he has got to take care of his family. Your father just never gave a shit, or however the line is delivered.
However they put it. Yeah, that's how it was. A great conversation. Yeah.
And you see that, Grandpa really loves JR because he's there for him, and, he steps up when he needs to, because his own because JR's father is an absentee piece of crap dad, as we've said so many different times.
Yeah.
Because it is true. Huge piece of trash.
Yeah. Played by Max Martini.
Yep. That's where we have, Grandpa's like, your mother's sick. Be nice to her.
Yeah.
So, not going to give away much of anything. Watch this. Absolutely. I implore you to watch this. Fantastic piece of cinema.
I love this movie, and I was probably, I don't know, halfway through, and I decided to look up, looking up something, and then I saw the Rotten Tomato score, and it actually disappointed me that it was only at like 50%, because I'm sitting here, I'm watching this movie, and I'm like, this is Ben Affleck's best performance, this is George Clooney's best film since Good Night and Good Luck, and I'm like, I love everything about this movie, the characters, the story, everywhere it goes, and I am a sucker for a good coming-of-age story. But I really do love this movie. It is probably one of my favorite films of 2021. Technically, it was released in theaters, limited in 2021, so it is up for Oscars and stuff, or it will be. There's a lot of talk for Affleck being nominated and possibly winning for Best Supporting Actor for this role.
Gosh, I hope so, because I am right there with you. As I texted you as I was watching it last night, this is amazing. Christopher Lloyd, national treasure.
Yes, exactly. And those were your exact words. It hit me in the right spots. It was one of those things, like you said, it just is your type of movie, and I wish people could love it as much as I did. It reminds me of it's kind of a funny story with Zach Galifianakis. I don't know if you've seen that one, but that's like a drama that takes place inside a mental institution. And that was another movie that when I saw it, like emotionally, I was just all over it. I loved it. Everything about it. And then I went and looked at what other people thought, and most people didn't like it. I was like, oh, like what's wrong with me? I guess. Which is why we always say on here, watch the movie, judge for yourself. Don't listen. It's okay to look at reviews and take opinions and go into a movie informed in what you think other people think about it. But in the end, it's going to be what you like about it. And this is a perfect example, I think, of that. Of like, this movie is going to speak to certain people. It's not going to speak to everybody. Other people are going to focus more on some of the writing and stuff. And everything it engulfed me. And I was just really just like, wow, I was there. I really loved the performances from everybody. The kid was really good. I love seeing Lily Rabe in a kind of a bigger role. All around, congrats to everybody that made this movie, because I thought it was fantastic. I really hope people give it a chance and don't see the Rotten Tomatoes score and be like, oh, I'm not going to watch it now. Because it really is something that's, I think, really special and a really just well-made movie. And I really want people to see it. So,
form your own opinion. That's what I just keep saying. It's like, don't. Yeah. With all the ways these Metacritic scores and IMDb, Rotten Tomatoes can be manipulated, no. Yeah. Just watch it and then go from there.
Yes. I will give it a 9 out of 10, Wayne. I thought it was that good.
Right there with you. I was thinking 9 as well. And I wouldn't go any higher because I don't believe in perfection. So.
All right. So, obviously, you can tell we really love that movie. Then the next one is an older film from the 80s, starring the grizzled Charles Bronson as a grizzled detective, because that's basically, by 1983, that's what he was playing in every movie that he was in. Even when in Death Wish in 1974, when he wasn't a detective, he was a grizzled doctor or whatever. He had to be grizzled by that point.
He is unfortunately one of those guys that, plays the grizzled hard ass real well, but that's kind of all he can do. So
it really is. And the thing is he knew it, so he did play into it a lot. But you're right. There are times when they ask him to do other things, and it's not as good. I hadn't seen this movie before, which is why obviously we are reviewing it. But it's one that was kind of on my radar because it kind of fits into the horror genre, but also the police procedural genre as well. So it fits both those categories pretty well. Bronson is a detective who's got a new partner, and they are end up realizing they're chasing a serial killer, essentially. But it's played. What I liked about the serial killer scenes, Wayne, is they play it like a slasher film. Yes. And I thought that was really interesting within a cop movie. And you don't usually get that type of a style to it. But they were obviously trying to hit the 80s slasher boom, but bring in the 70s cop drama to that. So it was like an interesting meld of that.
It was a really pleasant surprise because I wasn't expecting the horror slasher aspect of it at all.
It was made by the Canon Group, which is a company that made Over the Top
cameras, Canon cameras,
Superman 4, Quest for Peace. They basically they're basically the reason Chuck Norris has a career. I think Van Damme did some work with them too early on in his career. Some of his movies were Canon films. There's a really interesting documentary about Canon films that I think people should watch. Other people in this movie: Lisa Eilbacher, Andrew Stevens, Gene Davis, Jeffrey Lewis, father of Juliette Lewis, who just passed away a couple years ago.
Don't forget Wilford.
Wilford Brimley, that's right. I was actually happy when I saw his name on the screen. I'm like, Wilford. He plays the just annoyed to death police chief or police captain who just doesn't like every scene. I feel like he's just like, I don't want to be here. What, you guys solved the crime already? Jesus.
I gotta get my Quaker Oats and check my blood sugar.
Yeah, Wilford Brimley, who the youngest man, whatever you want to say, because he was only like in his 40s when he made this movie, but he looked like he was already 70.
Right. Kelly Preston is under a different name in this movie?
Huh?
Kelly Preston, listed as Kelly Palzisi? Palzisi? P-A-L-Z-I-S. Doreen.
I don't see her on the... Are you... Oh.
I am on IMDb.
Well, wait. Oh, yeah. What the fuck? Wikipedia still has it as Kelly Palsy, so they don't even have... So you have to click on it to see that it's actually Kelly Preston.
Huh.
So she
very interesting.
She was one of the nurses then, right?
I believe so, yes.
Because she's grouped
up. I don't recall her, honestly, in the film. I don't like look and like, oh, Kelly Preston. Yeah. Nope.
Well, and she was doing like horror films early on in her career, so that's not surprising. And like summer camp films too. So yeah, that's an interesting, nice pick there, Wayne. I didn't know that. So yeah, I mean, this movie is, a typical cop procedural, guy hunting killer, but I really liked the killer scenes because, like I said, of how they filmed them and how it was filmed like a slasher movie. And I thought the guy that played the killer, he was good when he was evil. He was bad when he was anything else. Yeah. When he tried to be like a real person, it was like, bro, just play evil. Like, I'm not buying this. Like, he was pretty awful as an actor. But when he was like, had to be like murdery, he was pretty good. And I like, there's the scene at the end is really good too, I think, between him and Bronson. It's a cheesy 80s film. I'm not going to sit here and tell you this thing's a classic or anything, like we unearthed something magical or something, but I thought it was a fun time. It's Bronson running around with a big gun, saying goofy things and trying to, and eventually killing a serial killer. Spoiler. I don't know, Wayne. What are your thoughts on this movie? Because I picked it, so.
It was a pleasant surprise. I was kind of like, oh God, Bronson. All right, let's suffer through this. But for an almost 40-year-old film, I was like, hey, all right, I'm entertained.
I think this was probably one of the last movies that he did where people actually liked it. Because then he started doing. I think after this was Death Wish 2 through 5, which were all with Canon films. Which, yeah. So I mean. And then he just did whatever they asked him to at that point, whatever crappy B movie. He was in a couple of things I heard of here and there. But yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it. So I would say 6.5 out of 10 for this movie. It's on Amazon Prime right now. It's a fun kind of slice of 80s slasher cop film, which there aren't a lot of, I guess. So in that respect, I think it is a little different and something a little bit more interesting than your normal fare of cop and slasher films from the 80s. So I would say check it out.
Did Canon, whatever, how do you say, did they do Masters of the Universe?
Yes, they did. They're the reason it was set in.
We have talked about this. That's why I was ringing a bell then. Okay.
Yeah, they're the reason that movie was set in New York and not in the fictional world where it needed to be set, because they didn't have a budget big enough to make it look like a fictional world.
Right.
So they're like, why don't we just set it in New York? Okay, we'll set the fictional world of He-Man in New York City. Yeah, they did a lot. It's an interesting documentary if you get a chance to watch it. Definitely well worth your time. Add this movie to your list, plus the Canon film documentary. Wayne, what is your rating of this film?
About a 6. Okay. Better than I thought it would be, but nothing I'm going to seek out to watch again.
Right, exactly. And the same here. I'm not probably going to watch it again. I'm glad I saw it, but I don't need to see it again, most likely. Unless I, decide that I need to show my son years from now.
You think this was bad? Check this out.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I mean, he did already watch the first John Carpenter movie that they made with me with the giant space alien ball. So I think he knows what bad cinema looks like. All right. So I'm just a couple things that I watched this week. Let's see. All right. So I watched Hail to the Deadites, which is a documentary on Shudder about Evil Dead fans. It's made by Evil Dead fans. The subject is an Evil Dead fan. And they kind of follow him around from convention to convention, and he talks to more fans and people involved in making the movie. He talks to one of the main special effects guy from the first movie a lot. Bruce Campbell's got some interview clips in there. As well as Ted Raimi, brother of Sam Raimi. They didn't get Sam Raimi, which I understand because he's kind of become bigger than everybody that used to worked on those movies. So I kind of understand it probably cost a lot of money to book him, and he's always very busy. So it was made, I think, like 4 or 5, maybe even 6 years ago. It just took a while for them to get it out to the people because it came out last year. But you could tell in the movie. I think it took place in 2015 when they started filming it, and it took about 5 years for them to get it finished. If you're an Evil Dead fan, look, it's a fun movie. It kind of takes you down memory lane. Talks about what kind of fan are you? Did you watch Army of Darkness first? Which I did. That's how I found the series. It wasn't until I started working at Blockbuster that I realized that there was even 2 original films. So it was one of those things that it took time for me to learn that because I didn't grow up on the Evil Dead movies in the 80s because I was not alive for the first one, and I think I was 1 for the second one. So, but I'm a huge fan of the franchise now. I love that series. So if you're a fan, definitely something worth watching. On the Criterion Channel this last week, I watched Mikey and Nikki. It's a movie I never heard of it. It's directed by Elaine May. It's from 1976. It stars Peter Falk and John Cassavetes. 2 people who I'm familiar with, and also Ned Beatty. It's interesting. It's not necessarily something I would go and watch again, but it's 2 mobsters. One of them, John Cassavetes' character Nicky, is targeted to be assassinated. Mikey's his best friend, so he's trying to kind of help him through it and get out of town, this kind of stuff here and there. It's a lot of the dialogue almost seems like it wasn't written and it was unscripted. From research, I think that's how Cassavetes made a lot of his movies, or that's the style that he liked to have. So, because Cassavetes fans, from what I looked up, really like this movie because it fits into his style of movies, even though he didn't direct it. But it was just, for me, it was an okay watch. The ending's really good. Ned Beatty's really good in it, as well as Peter Falk and John Cassavetes. But it's not something, like I said, I would probably revisit. And then I finally finished Dead and Buried for watching through Shudder. Joe Bob. It was one of the 3rd season films that they watched. Interesting film. Very weird 80s horror film. Early 80s. I think 1981. Kind of bizarre, weird ending, but it was entertaining. I enjoyed it. It had a young Robert Englund in it. A couple other actors in it too. That people will recognize. But yeah, it was fun. So I definitely recommend Dead and Buried if you have Shudder, or it may even be on Amazon Prime. Wayne, anything you got to watch this week?
I am eagerly waiting to watch the season finale, possibly series finale of Dexter New Blood. It has been an incredible season, and I highly recommend anybody who has not watched it yet to watch it. I was reviewing some of the episodes this week that have already aired, and very, very good. Dawson and I started watching the 2012 Nickelodeon Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the 3D one, and we're enjoying that. While my in-laws were in town, we started watching Mountain Men, so the TV show on history. So we're finishing that up. We're on the 10th season right now. Doing a lot of TV this week, not a lot of film. So
okay, all right. All right, so on to news and notes then. Will Arnett steps into the Armie Hammer role in Taika Waititi's new film, Next Goal Wins. The film was shot in 2019, but Hammer was unavailable for reshoots, so Arnett was cast. Unavailable, I put that in quotes because he's got a lot of allegations against him right now. Cannibalistic text messages between him and a old girlfriend or whatever. So that's why he's not in the movie. People, he wasn't unavailable. As no one wants to work with him anymore. But it's a new Taika Waititi film. I'm really looking forward to that. So because I love him. So
yeah.
Keanu Reeves.
Armie Hammer, no big loss.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Keanu Reeves in talks to star in The Devil in the White City miniseries being produced by Leonardo DiCaprio and directed by Martin Scorsese. It will air on Hulu. Now, I don't know what's going on, if Leo's still going to be in it or not, because there is a rumor that Keanu is actually going to possibly be taking on the role of Holmes. So we'll see when everything is revealed. Obviously, this is something that's probably going to be next year, I would imagine. I can't imagine them having it done. Maybe the end of this year, maybe. But we're big Keanu Reeves fans here, so we'll see.
Yeah, take your time, do it right.
Tobin Bell might be returning for a new John Kramer storyline in the Saw franchise. Chris Evans to play Gene Kelly in fictional story about a kid who develops an imaginary relationship with Gene Kelly, based on an original idea by Chris Evans. Josh Hartnett, latest to join Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer biopic. Vanessa Kirby replaces Jodie Comer in Ridley Scott's Napoleon project called Kit Bag. Joaquin Phoenix is playing Napoleon. Jodie did an interview recently and just said she had to drop out, scheduling conflict. She wasn't very happy about it. A lot of it was, I think, because of the COVID protocol. Certain things got pushed and stuff. But she just worked with Ridley Scott in The Last Duel, which I really liked. Beavis and Butthead is going to have a new movie debut on Paramount Plus from creator Mike Judge later this year. Here's news you'll like, Wayne. Michael Imperioli will be starring in the second season of The White Lotus. That's that HBO show. I think they're going to treat it kind of like each season is its own separate thing because it's a hotel or resort that people come to. So each season will bring new guests to the resort, and he's the main character for that.
American Horror Story type.
Yeah, something like that. Exactly. Jonathan Nolan and Lisa Joy of Westworld are bringing Fallout the video game to TV. Rooney Mara set to star and produce an Audrey Hepburn film where she'll play Audrey Hepburn, directed by Luca Guadagnino, who did Call Me By Your Name and the Suspiria remake. Wes Anderson set to direct and adapt the wonderful story of Henry Sugar from Roald Dahl over at Netflix. Netflix acquired Roald Dahl's entire catalog, so they're looking to make movies, TV shows, and stuff.
What is his relation to Anton Sugar? Yeah, I got him.
Anyway, Scott Pilgrim anime series in development at Netflix as well. Release is coming up. You flustered me, Wayne. Release is coming up. Space Force Season 2 hits Netflix February 18th. All of Us Are Dead, Korean zombie series, debuts on Netflix January 28th. The Boys Season 3 debuts June 3rd. Pixar's Turning Red heads straight to Disney Plus March 11th, thanks to the success of Soul and Luca, plus COVID on the rise. I'm sure that had something to do with it, but they've had a lot of success with the Pixar movies going straight to Disney Plus. So Turning Red will be the next one. Deaths this week. Robert Bruce, who was the one of the main guys on Kevin Smith's Comic Book Men, found dead at 62. These last two were pretty big. Peter Bogdanovich, writer, director, actor, dead at 82. And then Academy Award-winning actor Sir Sidney Poitier, dead at 94. He was also a director as well. Did Stir Crazy. They were both older. I think Bogdanovich was sick, and Poitier was, I don't know if he probably just because he was 94 years old. But they're both legends in the film business. So, it's a big loss either way.
They say it always comes in threes. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
I feel like it's been like 6 or 7 since the end of the new year. Because last week we had a big list too with John Madden, the director of Dallas Buyers Club, and Betty White. So I think it's really just kind of becoming rampant lately. I don't know if these deaths were COVID related or whatnot, but it's just sad. Poitier had such a long career. If you have not seen his film In the Heat of the Night, you need to watch that film. It's a very important film. It's so good. Him and I'm drawing a blank on the guy, but the white guy. It's basically a black cop and a racist white cop have to find these racist white perpetrators throughout a whole night, and it's astounding. It's wonderful. It's a fantastic film. If you have not seen it, definitely that's one movie I can recommend to his to hunt down and watch it because it is fantastic. All right, that is our show for the week, everybody. We appreciate you listening. As always, it's been fun talking movies with Wayne, and hopefully you guys are enjoying our conversations. So we will see you again next week. Thank you for listening to Now Showing with Mike and Wayne.
Ronald Reagan, the actor?
Hasta la vista, baby.
Hey, everybody, we're all gonna get laid.